Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation. Of the 9 creations, the first one is a creation of the Mahatattva, or the sum total of material ingredients, wherein the modes interact due to the presence of Supreme Lord. In the second, the false ego is generated, in which the material ingredients, material knowledge, and material activities arise. Purport. The first emanation from the Supreme Lord for material creation is called the Mahatattva. The interaction of the material modes is the cause of false identification, or the sense that a living being is made of material elements. This false ego is a cause of identifying the body and mind with the soul proper. Material resources and the capacity and knowledge to work are all generated in the second terms of creation. After the Mahatattva, Jnana indicates the sense which are source of knowledge and their controlling deities. Work entails the working organs and their controlling deities. All these are generated in the second creation. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. This is portion of Bhagavatam, is little technical. Let us try to understand, whatever degree we can conceive. Creation, maintenance, and annihilation happens in material world. Creation is the activity of material world. And whatever gets created, it has to be annihilated, sooner or later. But in spiritual world, there is no creation. But in spiritual world, no creation. That's the reason there is no destruction. And automatically, or by supreme arrangement of the Lord, is maintained automatically. Like we'll be seeing further, like in this material world, somebody has to create all elements, somebody has to create the senses, sense object, and ultimately these are created, then they are assembled together in a body to act. Like a motor parts, for this example. Different parts, nut and bolt, get put together, comes out the full motor car. Similarly, in this material world, different like Gyan Indriya, Karm Indriya, sense perception, sense object, Mahatbhuta, Panchabhuta, mind, intelligence, they has to create and it has to assemble to integrate a function certain way. But in the spiritual body, it's not like that. And because they got assembled and function in a certain way, if assembling is a problem, then will not work. Somebody called me, he said, my mother eyesight has gone and very less. One eyesight is completely, another is very less. I said, did you go to doctor? They says, yes, we saw to doctor. Doctor says, the nerves which connect eyes. Eyes is perfectly okay. Connects to the mind, some problem with that. So it cannot be rectified. So even if they are the object individual, if there is no proper connection, things will not happen. But in the spiritual world, the spiritual body, is completely different. So that's the reason in the Bhagavad Gita in the 7th chapter, Krishna says, 7th chapter, 2nd verse, there are two kind of, Jnanam teham sabhijnanam idam vakshami asishita yaj gyatva ne bhuyo anyaj gyatavyam avshishyate. So Prabhupada writes, if you see the translation, I shall now declare unto you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal and numinous. What is phenomenal? Phenomena. In this material world, like eyes is there. My eyes to see is requires certain phenomena has to happen. If there's any problem, light is not there, I cannot see. My problem, the retina, I cannot see. There's a nervous system is connected to the mind, I cannot see. So there's some phenomena has to happen to work certain my senses or to work certain degree. But the spiritual world is not like that. So that's the reason there's no defect in the spiritual world. There's no loss of memory in the spiritual world. And actually there's nothing has to remember. You already you are, that's it said, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Sadha Kabuno. Nothing has to brought something. Already is there. Soul is ever pure. Mabe Vanasho Jeev Loke Jeev Bhuta Sanat. It's only got covered. That covering has to be removed. But the covering can be removed. Shravadi Suddhichit. Just hearing. Even if you do not understand, if simply you hear from a spiritual master authority, covering can be removed. It's not something you have to memorize, you have to mug up, you have to use your so-called intelligence to become a scholar. Nothing like this. It's already the soul is pure, ever existing. Already this is there. So this is a Cheto Darpana Marjanam. That has to be removed, that's it. So this phenomena which happens in this material world, which is seen in the last verse, no vida, there's a nine. I won't say kind, is a 9 phases by which the creation happens. There has to this word has to come. So there's few phases are required. And the kind of duplication has to happen. What is the spiritual world? There's some duplicate body. Original body of the soul is spiritual body. So that duplication has to happen in the material sense. And the duplication is required because as a jiva, we have developed a fancy desire to become the Lord. Last class we have discussed what the first wrong desire the jiva had. The first wrong desire the jiva had told the rights in the second canto to I am Krishna. I want to become a Krishna. Or I am Krishna. That's the first, the wrong desire. So to facilitate, to fulfill that kind of the wrong or the fancy desire, Krishna has created this temporary world, illusory world. Like Madhupanda Prabhu gave other example about video game we are playing. So we are not the bodies, but we are thinking we are the bodies. So this whole creation Lord has to do to facilitate a jiva to experience and also as we discussed the dual purpose of this material world. Primary purpose is to reform the jiva and send back. And second, meanwhile, satisfy some fancy desire, if possible, little here and there. So, in the 9 phases of creation, we try to discuss. Basically, in this part, even we have read in the second canto, in the 5th chapter, there also is given. Sometimes we get confused. Different places in the Bhagavatam only, different ways of creation is being explained, but both are right. One process being looked at 2 different angles. That's it. If you just go, when you study little intellectually in that sense, you will appreciate such a wonderful explanation is given. We try to read out few portions and we try to understand 1 degree. So what is this 9 phases of creation? As we know, full spiritual sky, one corner is a material. Where is a little material energies is there. So that's material sky, small, which is covered like a cloud. There Mahavishnu comes, glances on. No, material energy. Material energy, we have discussed, comes out into the bricks, transform into the Mahatattva. So, Adyastu Mahata Sargo, the first creation is Mahatattva. Adyastu Mahata Sargo. Gun Veshamyam Atmanaha. So, initially material energy is there. And in the second canto, if you read, first the time concept comes into the picture. Kala comes. Kala comes before even modes of nature. As the Lord glances of the energy, as he glances, Kala comes in the picture. Kala comes, then material modes comes. And then after Kala, the material modes start acting on the material energy, which gets further transformed XYZ. Let me try to understand 9 steps. How does this happen? So the first step is happening. What is happening? Mahatattva. So of the 9 creations, the first one is a creation of Mahatattva, or the sum total of material ingredients, wherein the modes interact due to the presence of Supreme Lord. What is modes? Modes is influence. Actually, scientists, they never can understand. There's something called modes. We say, like this Tamoguna place, this Rajoguna place, and this, they cannot understand. Because these modes are acting. How something can influence me? Some here is there, what is there? It's your influence, your thoughts process also. But these modes, it is nice, Prabhupada is writing, when the modes interact due to the presence of the Supreme Lord, these modes are acting because of the Supreme Lord. So in the first step, what is happening? Mahatattva coming. Now, in the second, false ego is generated. Second, what is happening? False ego is generated. And the second, false ego is generated, in which the material ingredients, material knowledge and material activities arise. Now, the false ego, I will reconnect this to the second canto, 5th chapter, from verse number, I think some 20-25 onwards. The detailing is there. When the false ego is there, the false ego has a 3 portion. One, false ego part of ignorance, false ego part of passion, false ego is part of goodness. Goodness, passion, ignorance is a false ego. When the false ego of ignorance transform into the material element called Panchabhuta. False ego of goodness portion get transformed into the mind and controlling deities, devatas. And the false ego part of the passion increase into our activity, material activities, and intelligence. So mind comes from the part of goodness of false ego, intelligence part of passion, the element, and they put together it happens. So that's a different way is explained. Same concept, different way is explained in the second canto. Now in this third canto, the first phase, first creation is happening, Mahatattva is getting created. Second one, false ego coming into the picture, and in which the material ingredients, material knowledge and material activity arise. First emanation from the Supreme Lord for material creation is called Mahatattva. The interaction of material modes is a cause for false identification. When this is happen, then Ahankara comes, when modes start acting. A sense that a living entity is made of material. So unless the whole material world, I have to think I am this body, then only this material world has meaningful. So identification with the body. And material resources, the capacity and the knowledge to work all are generated in the second term. Now in second term, what happens in this? Our Pancha Gyan Indriya. What are those? Eyes, nose, ear, tongue and sense of touch. Yeah, skin. So this Gyan Indriya gets generated. And 5 Karmindriya. Now, along with the Jnana Indriya, controlling 5 controlling deities. Because as we have read, every portion of our body or every portion of this universe is being controlled by some demigods. Because eyes is working because of some demigod is controlling. So in this material world, everything is a separate part and being controlled, managed. And the spiritual body is a homogeneous body kind of thing. That's why Angan Yas Saklendri Vitti Manti. So there is different concept in the spiritual, which is very difficult for us to conceive as of now, because we know here we have an idea, conception of here. So in the second, the false ego is coming, and 5 Jnanindriya and 5 Karmindriya is coming picture. Okay? And their controlling deities is coming in the second part of creation. The sense of perceptions are created in the third creation. Third creation, what is happening? What does sense of perception means? Sense object. Senses are there, you require a sense object. If sense, without sense object, sense is no meaning. So in the third part of creation, what is happening? Sense object is getting created. And because of sense object, material elements comes in the picture. Initially, from the sound, what comes? From the sound, what comes? Ether, sky. From ether, sky, what comes? Air. Because the sky has only one. That. Air comes from air, fire, from fire, water to earth. So this all, that's process that the way. So because of sense perception, the sense perception are generated in the third creation, and from these elements are generated. So that is happening in the third. First one, Mahatattva. Second, false ego. And 5 Karmindriya, Jnanindriya, they are controlling deities. Third creation is happening, sense perception, sense object. And elements, earth, water, fire and ether, they case from the sense perception. Fourth creation is a creation of knowledge on working capacity. Now, you have a sense object, you have a sense. Will not work. You require a working capacity, knowledge, connection, wiring happening in the fourth creation. Sense object has come, sense that has to be, connection has to be there. So the fourth creation is a creation of knowledge and of working capacity. It's happening in the fourth part. Detailing further we'll see sometime, but let's have a one brief understanding. The fifth creation is that of controlling deities by the interaction of modes of goodness, of which the mind is a sum and total. So the ahankara portion, as he said, when it's with a mode of goodness, deities work, controlling deities, and also the lot of controlling deities are there, and the mind is generated. And last, so that is the fifth creation. What is happening? Lot of other controlling deities. So fifth creation is that of controlling deities by the interaction of mode of goodness, of which mind is a sum total. So mind is coming into the picture. Fifth creation. And the sixth creation is the ignorant darkness of living entity, by which the master acts as a fool. Means avidya is created in the sixth. So beginning six are happening by the influence of the Supreme Lord, or by the will of the Lord, or by working of the Lord, as happening first six. So first six is called sarga. And further next 3 or 4, it is a 10, 3 plus 1, 4 is called visarga. So initially these 6 phases of creation is happening by influence, by the will and the working of the Supreme Lord. He is not to work, but his will and influence by Supreme Lord influence. 6 phases are happening. And next, so this avidya, Prabhupada is writing in the purport further. Demigods in the higher planets are called devas because they are all devotees of Lord Vishnu. Yeah. Controlling deities are generated. Prabhupada is saying, for example, one of our sense organ, the eyes, is controlled by light, and light is distributed by the sun rays, and their controlling deity is the sun. So eyes is being controlled by sun, because without light we cannot see. So like this, the different ways of controlling deities are coming into the picture. So after the creation, the demigods, all entities are covered by darkness of ignorance. Each and every living entity in material world is conditioned by his mentality of lording it over the resources of material nature. Now, the energy of the Lord is called avidya, is bewildering factor of the conditioned soul. Till avidya is there, we cannot identify with the body, we cannot function properly. So the energy of the Lord, this also, avidya is also the energy of the Lord. So that's the avidya is coming in which sixth one. So the energy of the Lord called avidya is a bewildering factor of the conditioned soul. Material nature is called avidya or ignorance, but to the devotee of the Lord engaged in pure devotional service, this avidya energy get converted to vidya called pure knowledge. Like Mahamaya for the conditioned soul. Same Mahamaya take the form of a Yogmaya for the devotees. So this avidya energy of the Lord, further is explain that this energy of the Lord transform from Mahamaya to Yogmaya and appears to pure devotee in her real feature. The real feature is a Yogmaya. The shadow becomes like real world is spiritual world, material world is a reflection, imitation world. Like real world we see and we see some movie on the screen. So movie has to come up. So you require projector, you require light, lens. It has to be created. This object we have here, real object. It has to be created something on the screen. So the material nature therefore appears to function in these 3 phases. That's creative. So we'll be going through more detail further. Now the 6. Now, all the above are the natural creation by the external energy of the Lord. First 6 called natural, automatic creation, 6 phases. By the energy of the Lord and by the influence of the Lord, this is done. Now hear from me about the creation of Brahma. Now next 3 creations are happening because of intelligence of Brahma. But that intelligence also given by Krishna. So first things the Lord only had done. Next 3, He is giving intelligence, asking you to do. So, yeah. So now hear from me about the creation by Brahma, who is an incarnation of mode of passion and who is in the matter of creation. Has a brain like that of, Brahma is very powerful. His brain is it's not ordinary because Lord has given the brain. Now, the 7th creation is that of immovable entities, which are 6 kind. Which are immovable entities? Plants and trees. In the 7th creation, what is happening? Plants and trees are getting created. And which are 6 kind? The case, the fruits tree without flower. There's some fruit tree which without flower. How beautiful descriptions are there. Trees and plants which exist until the fruit is ripened. Now few things, fruit is ripened, then it dries off. There's something will come from the ground. So, creepers, pipe plants. You know pipe plants? Some pipe, so pipe plants, creepers which have no support, and the trees with flower and fruit. There are only 6 varieties of plant is in this Bhagavatam divide categorized. Botany also we might have studied something. They have a different way to categorize device, but this very how every plant they fall in the every plant creeper fall in these 6 categories. And that is Brahma is doing now. Now this from here Brahma is doing, putting his mind how to create, how this all plant. So this 7th creation, this all plants and everything is immovable trees are created. So all the immovable trees and plants seek their sustenance upwards. Upwards means they grow upwards. They are almost unconscious but have feelings of pain within. So the Bhagavatam is saying they are almost unconscious but still a feeling of pains within. So that's it. If you cut the tree have a feeling of pain. They may not be able to express, but they have a feeling of pains. So that's the reason. If you unnecessarily cut the plant means the reactions will come. Maybe not as kill other jiva, but some reactions will come. So that's the reason Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita, Yagna Sishtha Sena Santo Chinsekar Titautam Agam Papam E Pachyanta. Even killing, many people they say, na, Prabhuji, I am killing animals, you are killing also plants. Yes, plant also got a life. So that's the reason if we do not offer to Krishna, we have to bear the reaction. So they are almost unconscious but feeling of pain within. They have a feeling of pain. And they are manifest and variegated. So this is the 6th one. So 7th one. The Brahma is coming. Now 8th creation is that of lower species of life. They are the different varieties, numbering 28. How many? Exactly they are. Because Brahma has to create, numbering should not be garbled here and there. One thing will miss. So he has to do very step by step. So plant 6 categories and divisions. Now he's saying lower animals is 28 category. They're all extensively foolish and ignorance. They know their desire rebels by smell, but are unable to remember anything within the heart. So now few animals now they smell like dog now they smell and understand is good for me or not good something. So these are the 28 varieties of lower animals being created by Brahma. So who is explaining to whom? Maitreya to Vidura. Maitreya is explaining. So when Vidura is asked, so purest Vidura, the lower animals, the cows, the goats, buffalo, Krishna, stag, hog, gavya, animal, deer, lamb, camels, all have two hooves. How many hooves there? Cow has two hooves, yes or no? Four leg, but in one leg, these two hooves, two portions are there, if you see. They are animals, they have one hoof also. So the categorization is Bhagavatam is describing exactly. Who are the animals which is two hooves? Means one leg, this hoof, there's two portions are there. But some of that animals, they have one hoof. Horse, mule, ass, gora, sarva, bison, wild cow, all have only one hoof. Now you may hear from me about the animals who have 5 nails. So these all 28 varieties, Brahma is creating these animals in the 8th phase of their creation. And there are 5 nails in those hands. The dog, jackal, tiger, fox, cat, rabbit, sajaru, lion, monkey, elephant, tortoise, alligator, gosapa, etc. all have the 5 nails in their claws. They are known as panchanakhas, animal having the 5 nails. So these are getting created into the 8th phase of creation. So 6th, 7th was implants. Yeah, 8th. And also 8th also creating the heron, vulture, crane, hawk, was, Bhalluka, peacock, swan, saras, chakravartka, crow, owl, and others birds. So the birds and these lower animals, they are coming in the 8th phase. Now, the creation of human beings who are of one species only and who stock their eatables in the belly. We stock our eatables in the belly. So the human being is the 9th in the rotation. So this is the 9th part of creation, human being. In the human race, the mode of passion is very prominent. Humans are always busy in the midst of miserable life, but they think themselves very happy in all respect. So human being is getting created in the 8 phases. Oh, good Vidra, these last 3 creation and the creation of further demigods, which is called 10th creation, are called Vekrita creation, which are different from previous described Prakrit, natural creation, which were numbering in 6. So initial 6 phases of creation, now we are in the first phase, second phase like this. So first 6 phases done by the Vishnu, or the whole creation, is called Sarga. Next 4, 3 plus 1, 4, is done by the intelligence of Brahma. That's called engineer. Now he's called universal engineer. Brahma. He has to create, he has to do the things. So that's happened, the phases by phases. So this is the one way to explain. The second chapter, second to fifth chapter explain in a different ways, same creation in the different ways. So these description are again Bhagavatam. Can you see such a glorious, such a minute detail, which there are many scientists, other thing, or biologists or geologists, they are all botanists, they are trying to understand these all phases. So that's the beauty of Bhagavatam. And Srila Prabhupada writes many places, before we understand Krishna's interaction with his internal energies, or Krishna's leelas and spiritual world, we must understand first Krishna's interaction with material energy. How Krishna creates is beautiful. Then only we will be able to understand Krishna's internal activities and with his internal potencies. And the different varieties of demigods also listed further and further. So when you have this knowledge, then you can see how wonderfully the Lord is creating one by one after another to satisfy the false desire of a jiva, which we have all developed because of our wrong, to lord it over material nature. And Prabhupada when there is a jiva, there's a one beautiful let me open this. So there's a one beautiful letter which Srila Prabhupada writes to one of his devotee regarding about the preaching to the potential businessman. Prabhupada is writing. So let's try to. So I'll just read this. Prabhupada is writing to my dear Atriya Rishi. One devotee name is Atriya Rishi. Not that Atriya Rishi, Prabhupada right. Please accept my blessings. I am in due receipt of your very nice letter. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. It is not so much that because there may be some fault in our god brothers and god sisters, or because there may be some mismanagement or lack of cooperation, that this is due to being impersonalist. Sometimes because the impersonal concept comes, some fault comes in picture. It is the nature of a living condition to always have some fault. Fault is inbuilt in the system. Even in the spiritual world. Now please hear this, very important about this writing. It is a nature of the living condition to always have some fault. Even in the spiritual world, there is some fault and envy. Sometimes the gopis will quarrel over Krishna's favor. Once Krishna was so much attracted to Radharani that by mistake he tried to milk the bull instead of the cow. And sometime when the gopis used to put on their dress and makeup for seeing Krishna, they would be too much hasty and smear kumkum and masakar in the wrong places, and their ornaments and dresses would appear as if small children had been trying to dress themselves, and they were not very expert like that. There are so many examples, but it is not the same as material fault or material envy. It is transcendental because it is all based on Krishna. Sometimes when one gopi would serve Krishna very nicely, other would say, "Oh, she has done so nicely, now let me do better for pleasing Krishna." That is envy, but it is transcendental, without malice. So we shall not expect that anywhere there is utopia. Utopia means perfection. Rather, that is impersonalism. That is impersonal. Utopia means we know everything perfect means some machine. There is no system. People should not expect that even in the Krishna conscious society there will be utopia. Because devotees are persons, therefore there will always be some lacking. But the difference is that they are lacking because they have given up everything to serve Krishna, money, jobs, reputation, wealth, big education, everything. Their lacking have become transcendental. So lacking become because despite everything they may do, their topmost intention is to serve Krishna. One who is engaged in devotional service despite the most abominable action, is to be considered saintly because he is rightly situated. The devotees of Krishna are the most exalted person on this planet. Prabhu is writing, the devotees of Krishna are the most exalted persons on this planet, better than kings, all of them. So bees should always remember that, and like the bumblebee, always look for the nectar or the best qualities of a person, not like the utopians who are like the flies who always go to the open source or find the faults in other person. Because they cannot find any utopia or because they cannot find anyone without fault, they want to become wide, merge nothing. They think that that is utopia, to become wide and wide of personality. So if there are sometimes slight disagreement between devotee, it is not due to impulsiveness, but it is because they are person. And such disagreement should not be taken very seriously. The devotee is always pessimistic about the material world, but he is very optimistic about the spiritual life. So, in this way, you should consider that anyone engaged in Krishna's service is always the best person. I am very much pleased that you are assisting your God brothers so nicely. Yes, this is our real position, to be the servant of the servants of the servant. And by your quiet and humble attitude, you shall set the example of Vaishnava so that all may learn from you. Very soon, their puffed up attitude will disappear and they will come to you and seek your advice and matter. I am also encouraged that you are preaching to many businessmen acquaintances. That is very important work. So speak to them very frankly and with strength and conviction. They will see that even you are yourself a big businessman with high position and salary. Still, you are a devotee, and they will also become devotee if you ask them. And if only a few of such big businessmen become devotees, they can change the whole world. So it is very great and responsible task. Now do it very boldly and Krishna will reward you with all success. The secret is to engage everyone, even big businessmen. So at first engage them in some small way that so they will not feel threatened, but they will enjoy that small service so much automatically they will desire for more. Then gradually you convince them by strong arguments and engage them more and more. And then they will perfect their lives in Krishna consciousness and go back home, back to God. So here Shri is saying, you big business, you engage in some service little, when they do little service, they feel some transcendental pleasure. Then gradually, slowly, with a strong argument, with a lot of conviction, they can please them, so they can be. And if such a few big businessmen, if they take up Krishna consciousness, the whole face of the whole world can be changed. So Prabhupada always, and even the Sat Goswami, they try to preach the very influential purpose. Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did so. And we do so very systematically, by which now the whole impact can be created. So I will stop here. Gintra Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai Jagat Guru Prabhupada ki Jai Nitai Go Premanande Hare Hare.